Have you ever met one of the most underrated Supreme Court justices of all time? Or might expect for that matter that looking through a trash bag on the curb might get you to the Supreme Court? Well, you've come to the right video. Oliver Ellsworth was born on April 29, 1745 in Windsor, Connecticut to Captain David and Jemima Ellsworth. He entered Yale University in 1762 but transferred to the College of New Jersey, now known as Princeton, at the end of his second year. He studied theology and received his A.B. degree after 2 years. However, Ellsworth turned to the law. After 4 years of study, he was admitted to the bar in 1771. In 1772, he married his wife, Abigail Walcott. Oliver Ellsworth was appointed as Supreme Court Justice by President George Washington on March 6, 1796. Some of his major landmark cases were in 1796, Ware v. Hilton, in 1798, Hollingsworth v. Virginia, in 1798, Calder v. Bull, and in 1799, New York v. Connecticut. In 1777, Ellsworth became Connecticut's state attorney for Hartford County and was chosen as one of Connecticut's representatives in the Continental Congress. He served on the Committee of Five that prepared the first draft of the Constitution and wrote the letters of a landholder to promote its ratification. Ellsworth served as commissioner to France in 1799 and 1800. He was also the principal author of the Judiciary Act of 1789, which established the federal judiciary and shaped the Supreme Court. He represented Connecticut at the Constitutional Convention of 1787, where he orchestrated the Great Compromise and saved convention from deadlock. Ellsworth had retired from public life and lived in Windsor, Connecticut. He died on November 26, 1807, and is buried in the cemetery of the First Church of Windsor. And now for our Supreme Court case, California versus Greenwood. This all started in 1984 when investigator Jenny Strackner from the Laguna Beach Police Department learned from various sources that Billy Greenwood might be selling illegal drugs from his home. Police collected most of his evidence from dark green trash bags he left on the curb. This case happened and was argued on January 11, 1988, and was decided on May 16, 1988, and originated from Laguna Beach, California. What happened in this case was first it went to the California Appeals Court. The attorneys for the state of California argued that the police did not conduct a search as defined by law. Greenwood's attorneys made the statement that he did have reasonable expectation of privacy to his trash bags. They're on his curb, so therefore the police conducted a search when they had no right to. Moving forward, California Court of Appeals ruled in favor of Greenwood. The state then appealed to the California Supreme Court, where Greenwood was again also favored. California then appealed the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Once in the U.S. Supreme Court, the overall question was, did Greenwood have reasonable expectation that his trash would remain private? Michael J. Peer argued the period opinion for California, and his argument was that Greenwood voluntarily left garbage in an area suited for public inspection, therefore privacy was not reasonable. Michael Gary for Greenwood argued that the expectation of privacy is reasonable due to federal constitutional law of illegal warrantless search and seizure of his garbage. California versus Greenwood ended up in the U.S. Supreme Court because it was in violation of the Fourth Amendment. To conduct a search, the police must need probable cause, consent from the property owner, or a search warrant, and the police in this case had none of these. The final decision made by the Supreme Court was a voting of 6-2. The Supreme Court's final statement was that garbage left outside a curb is unprotected by the Fourth Amendment. There is in fact no reasonable expectation of privacy for trash left on the curb. Also, they stated that police can't ignore criminal activity that can be observed by any member of the public. Therefore, I believe the big impact this case had on American society is that it gave us a better understanding of the Fourth Amendment and our rights to privacy.